Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Valentin Consulting's YouTube channel, guest speaker series. My name is Dr. Daisy Valentin with Valentin Consulting. It's an accounting, finance, and payroll organization that helps non-traditional businesses with their accounting and finance. Well, today we are so excited because we have a wonderful speaker here today. He works so hard in our community. I am so blessed just to have you here because it's so hard to get you anywhere. So welcome, Francisco Segovia from Copal's executive director. So welcome to have you here today. Please tell us a little bit about you and about your organization.
Sure. No, it is an honor to be here with you today. And I'm Francisco Segovia. I am one of the founders of Copal, Communities Organizing Power and Action for Latinos or Latines. And so it has been an honor to be to build this organization along with other people who believe in the idea of developing this statewide power to transform communities to achieve what everyone wants, which is a better life. And so we are honored to be in this show and speak about the work of Copal and how we aim to impact people's lives.
That is amazing. So you were the founder of Copal, one of the founders.
Yes.
So what was, I know you said a little bit about that, but what kind of passion drove you guys to start Copal?
Yeah, and I usually refer to this moment of life that I think I was having maybe an existential crisis myself, thinking about, I came from El Salvador in 1990 without papers and with all the fears that anyone without documents have and hopes. And then eventually was hired by a nonprofit where I did some work for many years. But the idea was, how do we create this organization that where people can see themselves, where people can see the sense of belonging, the sense of understanding that we want whatever we want the same things that anyone wants, which is live better. And but also we also identify barriers that keep us from achieving that. I mean, one thing is about when we don't want personally to do things, right? But the other thing is when there are barriers outside our own desire that prevent us from achieving our goals. And that's where the idea of creating this organization using one concept that was the concept of power, collective power. How can we come together as people and use our collective power to change systems that are not working to better us? And so that's where the evolution of the organization, the evolution of the vision, it took some time. It's not like all of a sudden it's like here we are. But it was the moment of realizing that if there is no us, who, right? If it's not now, when? And that's where became key that it is us, the one who needs to change those conditions. And
Exactly.
it's us together that we can do it. And again, we simplify this, which is we just want to live better. We just want to feel safe. We just want to be productive in the society that we have called home. And as very simple as it is, many people cannot achieve that. And that's what provokes in our desire, our interest to build the organization. I call this organization a tool. A tool is a mean, is something to transform. And I tell my team members, this is a tool. Let's figure out how we use the tool effectively so we can achieve the goals that we want.
And I see that. I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to shout out to your team because I attended their first membership orientation this past weekend, and they did an amazing job. Not only did they do it in 2 languages, by the way, I want to commend them. They did amazing. And I can see what you're saying, how these are tools, because not only were they leaders in the community there was other important people like the architect. There was other individuals that came to hear, and we heard their stories of how Copal has inspired them, similar to what you were just saying. Like, we are giving you the tools to help change our perspective in the state and probably even across the country, right? So I really enjoyed listening more because I've seen Copal everywhere I go, right? I am in different spaces in the community. I see you there, but it's not the same thing as being there, right? Being there at Copal and hearing it from you guys directly, not just going to a booth or hearing from a few people. It's really honing in. And I've even been at some places where you've spoken, at colleges and stuff like that. So I'm like, I've heard this. Now I want to see the more in depth piece. And I want other people to know that too. And that's why we're here today, because I think that, you know, you know, our country is going through some big challenges, especially with our Latinx community today. And, we want to make sure that our families in the community know what resources are out there. And we, like you mentioned, you're a tool, your organization is a tool. So how can we work together to support those affected by immigration policies? Like, what kind of resources? I know this is very broad topic, but you don't have to go too much into it. But what kind of resources are available through Copal that can help these individuals?
That's a good question, and I think it has multiple ways that I can tell you this. One, I think it has to do with us as humans, as people who are the subject of these policies and politics. One is our well-being. When someone comes after you for who you are, regardless if you have documents or not, is coming after you. Regardless if
Mm-hmm.
you're Puerto Rican because you are a brown-skinned person, because it is you yourself, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that's has been so key for us, that we can all only function in any place if our self-esteem is strong and is able to endure all these things. For that purpose, we have one of the team members, Cecilia Calabria, who is the director of health and wellness. We have already doing some trainings, but there are going to be more trainings in various cities
Mm-hmm.
about uh, body mind medicine
Mm-hmm.
from a non-clinical perspective, the importance of us as people, our value as people. That's, I think, is essential, because if you are good, feeling good about who you are, regardless of what you hear, that is
Mm-hmm.
going to be so essential, because then you can provide support to others, to your own kids, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
So that is one that is already in place, and I think last Saturday there was another gathering. That's probably why you ended up in this other location, because people came for that conversation. Number two is, over a few years, we have been able to create this hotline where people can call for help. So we have navigators that on a weekly average, they hear or they engage about 300 people, and people call for various things. And the resources that we have in house, they get referred internally. If we don't have it in house, they connect that person with other resources. Again, it took us some time to get to that. It is, if you want to call it, is like our 211, like United Way, or 911.
Mm-hmm.
I call it in that way. Although we don't take on emergencies. Yeah, you will be surprised. There was one phone call once on someone who was having an emergency, and he's like, "No, no, no. If you have an emergency, you need to call 911."
Like, wrong. I mean, we can help you call that 911, but we cannot do the
Right, right, right.
911.
No, the person was having some health issues, and we were like, no, 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 don't waste your time calling us, call 911. But
Yes.
other non-emergency things, people can call us. And again, we have a team of two navigators, hoping to add a third one, because what they do is they help people navigate the challenges.
Mm-hmm.
As sometimes we don't know something, we need to look for help, and that's what those navigators do. We're hoping to add a third one, so the time to respond to people is a lot shorter. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
but those are some of the things that we have created. And the navigators can connect with resources that goes from food to legal help, and so that becomes essential. And in addition to that, we have the worker center. Uh, Claudia, the director of the Worker Center, was telling me that just in the month of January, about 905 people came to the Worker Center
Yes, she
from
was
Drexel
telling us that too.
to
That's
many other
awesome.
cities. And I remember myself when I was new to Minnesota. Like I said before, I didn't have document. I was new. I didn't speak English, and I was nervous. And when you go to a place, sometimes you want to see yourself. You want to be able to speak to someone your language. You want to be able to feel good about yourself, not
Hmm.
feeling bad because you are asking for help. And
Hmm.
so that's those are some of the values that we want to ensure our team members can use when engaging with others.
But
And that's
so
essential.
doesn't it come back to Francisco too, where we're having these challenges right now that many individuals, their work visas are about to expire.
Mhm.
And I've noticed that many individuals are being let go from their jobs because of that. They're not allowing them to like stick around. Does that is that something that Copal guides them to say, hey, you might want to go here, get this help here, so you have a way to get that? Because I've come across some individuals that have said that, where do I go, to get some help because I've lost my job.
It's a good question. We have navigated a few law firms that they. I mean, we had two systems. We had the
Hmm.
system that can take your case if
Hmm.
people meet their criteria, income or the case.
Hmm.
They are overwhelmed, and oftentimes they are not going to respond to you pretty quick as quick as you want. And so that is one system. The other system is identifying a public or a private attorney, and they can be expensive as well.
Hmm.
And so we have found one law firm that gives you the half-hour consultation, and we have been having they come to the radio, and we have been doing some shows with them.
Hmm.
And I by no means I get compensated by that law firm, but
Exactly.
I if someone is going to give me a half hour and I can come prepare and get all the information that I need, I will go to that place, and that is Wilson's Law Group.
Hmm.
Uh, that half hour, we have explored a few other law firms that they charge you like 150 or $300 just for the half hour.
Yeah, and that's great that you are getting, that's value in itself, getting
Yeah,
just a half hour,
yeah,
right? And you just talked about your radio station. So Copal does has its own radio station as well. Let's talk 2 minutes about
yeah.
that radio station, because I got to see where the radio station is this weekend, and I'm like, hey, I hear that radio station all the time. Now I know where it's located. So
Yes.
that's so cool. So talk about that, because a lot of people are afraid now, to go places, to go shopping, go different places. But you guys also have this radio station that helps provide information too.
Yeah, no, the radio. We as Copal, we became members of a national organization, the that does community organizing. Is Endelon, the National Daily Labor
Hmm.
Organizing Network, and they had created this radio. And when they created the radio in California, was for the purpose of connecting with people who were looking for jobs at corners.
Hmm.
In some places, people go to the corner and wait for someone to hire them, and they were very, very vulnerable, and so they created a radio to, have people to listen to that radio. It's an online radio,
Hmm.
and as technology is moving in the direction that it's moving, I mean, you can just download the application and listen to the radio in your
Go
car.
anywhere. Yeah, go anywhere.
And that became a tool. So we have been using the radio, and we are projecting to uh, bring the radio to that. Actually, we are hoping to put like a mobile radio
Hmm.
that we want to bring to different places where people can get to know the radio, can participate, but it's online. But the idea has been, I grew up in my home country, El Salvador, and and listening radios was so essential to communicate, to
Mm-hmm.
express, or to connect with others. Several years ago, when the online you could go and listen, and even the commercials from your home country becomes like, oh man, I feel like home. I am in Minnesota in the middle of
Yeah,
the
and you can hear everything from your country.
yeah,
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 I can hear everything from Puerto Rico too. Like
right, right.
I know what's going on over there sometimes before I know what's going on over here.
So it's the cultural thing, right? It's like I feel I am far away from home, but I want to be close at least enough to be
Hmm.
able to hear the things that I grew up with. And that's what we are hoping with the radio. That is a place where people can call and feel like home, connected, and knowing that there are other people like them, that they are not alone, right? Because it's a way to connect people.
And
And
that's awesome because it gives people a sense of home too.
yeah,
Like it gives them a sense of, hey, we're here, we're a radio station that kind of like brings what you had in your home country. And I exactly understand what you mean because especially radio is very it's I think radio is so essential today when we have hurricanes or we have,
right.
blizzards, things happen where system goes down, electricity goes down, technology goes down, what do you use?
Yeah,
Right? So it's still important to have that old fashioned radio once in a while because sometimes that's the only thing that's still available versus technology can just disappear. And back in the day when things happened, you listened to a radio. You didn't have technology, but I know it's evolving, and as it evolves, I'm glad that your organization is stepping up to those things because it's really important to do that. Where our community needs that, and they want to feel that they have something that's theirs, right? Like
yeah,
they can own and know that they can go to. Now I'm gonna switch it up here a little bit because we did something fun, but now I'm going to something a little bit more serious, right?
okay.
In what ways does Copal's advocacy work contribute to policy changes that benefit Latinx families in Minnesota? I know there's a lot of different policy changes. Copal has been part of it. I'm part of Latino Lead as well, and
Mhm.
we've collaborated with
Yes.
Copal on a lot of policy changes. But I want to know a little bit more of your involvement. I see a lot of things happening at the Capitol and different things like that. I haven't been able to be there as support yet in the process, but I've done a lot of my advocating from technology, right? They've asked me to come and be part of some of these bill changes for education, whether it's for, legislative things like that. But I seen you all there. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, and that's a good question, and thank you for asking. And in fact, this coming Monday, we have the Copa at the Capitol. So any one of the listeners that wants to come on Monday uh, at 9 a.m., we are going to be at the Capitol, the Rotunda, where we are gonna gather. We're going to speak about the issues that we are advocating for, and then we go into to the various offices. So number one is key. It took me a while, and I want to get back to in my own evolution, and this is key to share because none of us walk or is born knowing things. We
Mm-hmm.
evolve and we learn. There was a moment. My aha moment was when I was advocating for driver licenses to a group of elected officials, and the ones who say yes, oh man, excited. The ones who say no, the feeling of someone saying no, I don't believe that your community deserves a driver license. So
Mm-hmm.
that was a moment of evolution to understand the role of our elected officials. The second piece was, well, number one was how do we know, or what is it that we want our community needs to live better. At
Mm-hmm.
that moment was driver license.
Mm-hmm.
Spoke to several people, and we had yes, and we had no, so we had I don't know. And then those who said no, the question was why they don't believe that. They just simply don't believe that people they have a driver license. But then the part of the hot moment was, oh, but they have elections. If they have elections, can we interview the ones who are running against
Mm-hmm.
this person? Maybe that other person can say yes.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but understanding these three things, what is it that is in a way to achieve a better life, who represent us, and how is this connected to election. That was the moment where I realized that I was not using the power of electing the people who believes in our community.
Mm.
And that was a huge moment for myself. And because the thing is, oh, if you don't believe in us, you just give up.
Mm-hmm.
Opposed to, no, that person doesn't believe, but we can change that person. And so, from with that in mind, is that we began creating this concept of system change through civic engagement, and that the community learn how one issue, for instance, there is an issue that we passed in the last session was
Mm-hmm.
the IT numbers. It came from a conversation in the community. Someone who said there is so much money for housing, but the people who are in mixed status families, if the parents don't have a document, the kids born here,
Mm-hmm.
they cannot access even to rent an apartment. That
Mm-hmm.
was the issue. And we realized, what happened if we introduce a bill that allows people with IT numbers to use it as a way um, to rent an apartment? And we
Mm-hmm.
and then a lot of young people, especially young people, testified because they were impacted by their parents' inability to rent an apartment,
Correct.
and they were living in really really bad conditions. So we
And no
partnered,
stability, no nothing.
yeah, with Latino Lead, ACER, we
Mm-hmm.
something together,
I
and
know. I was there. I was part of that one. I'm excited. That's exciting. Oh.
yeah, but that's how it came from the community, and with this own research, and it went up to become a law now.
Mm-hmm.
But so that's so key for our community members. When you feel powerless and there is an issue, there is possibly a way. And so with Copal, we have a few things, like for instance the North Star Act, which is basically the separation of ICE and policing,
Mm-hmm.
two different institutions. So that's an important piece. That one of the things that we're working on. The other one is the Minnesota Care Public Option, which is a long shot because the issue with healthcare, access
Mm-hmm.
to healthcare is not just for people without a document; it's for anyone.
Anyone.
And
Mm-hmm.
we need the public options that allow people to, uh, I mean, like for instance, if you are in a small business, uh, oftentimes you don't feel. Uh, Healthcare is very expensive. I mean, 7 years ago,
Exactly. I know. I
it's,
know.
it's almost, and it's not that you don't want to pay, but man, sometimes it's too much.
Mm-hmm. And
Um,
I know that because I work with small non-traditional businesses, and most non-traditional businesses, it's very hard to care for, to get medical. And then because you make either too much money with your small business, but it's still pricey to get health insurance, and that's not feasible for families.
no, it's so difficult, and so we also have a few things related to environment and natural resources.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another bill. Also, we have the universal FAFSA requirements. This is to establish universal FAFSA requirements that will increase access to financial aid,
Mm-hmm.
helping more students afford college and reducing unmet financial needs. There is something, another bill that we're working on is a constitutional amendment for housing. Um, and so those are some of the things that we are working on. And the language for these bills can become a little bit complicated. Our job is to make language for
Mm-hmm.
those bills accessible to the community, so the community can see how they benefit
How
from
they really what they really state. I mean, I've worked with, Latino Lead,
that.
with Patricia Torre Rey,
Yep,
former senator, here with, when it comes to the education,
yep,
advocating for our, students in higher ed to get funding for education for our English language learners and stuff like that. So I understand it fully because they make the language seem so plain, but when we started dissecting the language, we kind of figured out, hey, this is not really working for us. And we want it to work for us. And that's really good that, Copal does that and that we advocate with you as well in these policies. Now, I know You were talking about the driver's license bill, and I'm so proud of that. I was a little bit involved in that very briefly, but I've seen the whole thing come through, and I'm very happy that that is here, because people do not realize that having a driver license is a key factor. It's a privilege, yes, but
Yes.
it's also a key factor to abide by the laws of the state and the country, So, I think it's really important for individuals, especially if you are an immigrant and you're here and you have papers, you need,
Yeah.
get your driver's license. That is something that's really crucial. But I know I heard this weekend that Copal helps them with studying for the license.
Yeah.
How is that?
We began. We became a DVS authorized
Hmm.
to offer the knowledge test. So,
Cool.
our location here in Minneapolis, we ended up purchasing a bunch of. I mean, we already have some computers, so we added more, and we applied to DVS to be an authorized
Hmm.
administrator of the test. But then we realized that the people who came to take the test, the they out of 10 people, probably two passed the test at that moment,
Hmm.
and we realized, oh man, we need to do something about it. So we decided to put a half-hour orientation prior to the test to review the manual, and we increased the number of people passing the test as a result of that. In addition, we discovered that many of our community members are not so used to computers, or much less using a mouse.
Hmm.
So we purchased a 3 or 4 touch screen units. And so the idea is like, how do we ensure that people knows how to operate a vehicle and the rules, not
Hmm.
to know how to use a computer, because if
Exactly, exactly. And many of them that are coming from here, that technology is not
yeah, right,
something that they know. You know what I mean? It's
yeah,
like they got their phone, but a phone is different than running a
totally.
computer.
So now our other two locations, Rochester and Mankato, also are doing the same thing. And believe me, what we enjoy is when we see people from Africa coming, when we see people from here coming, and there is an African person who I think it was a Somali person. He's saying, "Can I sign up for that class as well?" And so I understand that our Miguel, our proctor, had to do one in English, so this person can enjoy as I mean join the class as well.
Hmm.
But that's what you pass a policy, it becomes law. But if the people doesn't know that exists,
They're not going to
or,
find it. They're not going to look for it.
or if the state doesn't know how to implement that, it becomes a beautiful law without any effect.
Exactly. And what we have to look at, it's not just us, right? I say English language learners,
Yeah.
right? Those individuals that English is not their first language. It doesn't matter if they're Latinos or not. We're here to help the community,
Yes.
right? You are an organization, every organization that I have collaborated with or advocated with, we are an organization that starts with just the Latino side, but it's not just the Latino side, it's the
Right.
community in general. Those English language learners, our entire community that needs this, right? It's not just us, because there's a lot of immigrants that are not just Latinos.
But
They're
you can
not
even
just
be
Latinos.
surprised. You can be surprised that, for instance, the law that was passed recently about accessing higher education. If your
Hmm.
family makes $80,000 or less, you can have access to higher education.
Hmm.
You will be surprised how many non-immigrants don't know about that law.
Hmm.
And again, it is like, man, this is amazing, but a lot of people don't know.
Exactly.
And so,
Exactly.
so that's why we do it in Spanish, obviously, but also in English, so we can reach as many people as possible.
And I love that, because you foster that collaboration and partnerships with our community and community partners like Latino Lead,
Yes.
Latino Chamber of Commerce, all these different organizations. I'm just throwing a couple out there. There's many, many more that I've seen you collaborate with. And it's just inclusivity across Minnesota with Copal. I really, really enjoyed that. And when I met Copal for the first time, I was at the Valley Fair. when you guys
Oh,
did an event
really?
in Valley Fair a few years ago. And it was so much fun when I met everyone and I got to meet the teens. And one thing that I love is teaching accounting and finance and mentoring for education. And that's one of the things that I'm like, hey, I need to connect with Copal because I could be a good resource for them because of what I do, right? But I love what you do too. Like, it's so broader that Minnesota community gets involved with Copal's mission too, because that's one of the things that I saw people from Rochester, the architect that's creating your building that's coming soon,
Yeah.
myself, I
Yes.
mean, people in the community, people from, greater Minneapolis, other areas of Minneapolis. And that right there talks a lot about the organizations that we are involved in, right? That Copal's mission to support not only Latina and Latinx families, but beyond, right?
Yes.
And promote that equity. And I am so, so grateful that I became a member of Copal last year. And I hope to see more and more of you, Francisco, in the community with myself
Yes.
and working to help not only, like you said, others that are not immigrants, but even immigrants are immigrants, children's families, and the resources. Now, you said there was a hotline. They can find this hotline on your website as well, right?
Yes.
And they can find the information about the Capitol on the website as well.
Yes.
You can also reach out to Valentin Consulting info@valentin.com because we have all this information as well. And if you can't get a hold of Copal or you feel that you missed something, we can always share it with you. We're so grateful, Francisco, for giving us your time today and sharing all this wonderful information because we need to share it. We need to see it. And I think Copal is not only going to be in Minnesota, but it's going to expand globally or nationally soon. And it might start with this YouTube guest speaker series. You never know. So I
Yes.
want to thank you so much for being here. Thank you, everyone, for watching. If you want to continue to learn more about our guest speaker series and the leaders in our community, not just from Minnesota, but across the nation, please stay tuned to our next guest speaker series. Please like and subscribe so you can continue to get notified about our YouTube channel guest speaker series. Thank you so much. This is Dr. Daisy Valentin with Valentin Consulting.
Thank you.